As of August 17, 2024, consumers who are in the market to buy a home and would like to schedule appointments to see homes are now required to sign a document before seeing any home. This includes in-person and virtual appointments. Consumers are allowed to attend open houses without having to sign any type of agreement. Let's walk through some of the agreements you may encounter when speaking to a real estate agent about seeing a home.
This document is called a showing agreement without compensation. This document explains the following. 1. A real estate agent agrees to consult with the buyer to identify properties of interest and arranges showings of those properties upon the buyer's request. 2. The agreement starts on the effective date and automatically ends when certain conditions are met, such as entering into a brokerage agreement, viewing a specified number of properties, or after a set number of days. 3. The buyer is not required to pay any fees for the showing services. If a brokerage agreement is signed, the compensation terms will be outlined there, with negotiable commissions. 4. The buyer confirms not being under an exclusive agreement with another broker and allows communication from the broker and designated agent regarding property information. 5. The buyer agrees to exercise caution during property visits, acknowledges potential risks, and releases the broker and agent from liability for any injuries sustained on the property. 6. It is illegal to discriminate based on various protected classes when showing, leasing, or selling properties, as outlined in the Illinois Human Rights Act. 7. The agreement constitutes the entire understanding between the buyer and broker, can be signed electronically, and can only be modified in writing signed by both parties, with specific conditions regarding commission amounts and payment times. The next document is similar, but is the showing agreement with compensation. This document outlines a compensation agreement as follows. Paragraph number 3 of the document outlines the broker compensation terms. If the buyer decides to work with another real estate broker within a certain period, they must offer the original broker the opportunity to represent them on equal terms. If the buyer purchases a property shown during the agreement period without broker representation, they may owe a specified amount or percentage of the property's purchase price to the broker upon closing. Additionally, there is an option for the buyer to pay a retainer fee upon signing the showing agreement, which can be credited back if the buyer purchases a property within a certain time frame after the effective date while represented by the broker. The third document is an exclusive buyer representation agreement. This is a very detailed agreement between you and a real estate agent. An exclusive arrangement means you're solely represented by one real estate agent and not allowed to hire different agents during the home buying process. This is the most common form of a buyer agency agreement contract. Section 1. Broker designates a specific agent as the legal representative of the buyer for acquiring real estate. Section 2. The agreement starts upon buyer's signature and ends at 11:59 p.m. on a specified date. Section 3. Buyer agrees to pay broker a commission percentage if a property is acquired during the agreement term or within 180 days after termination for a property introduced during the agreement. Section 4. Broker conducts property searches based on buyer's criteria, informing about properties with compensation offers and the option to direct which properties to show. Section 5. Buyer's agent may represent both the seller landlord and the buyer tenant with written consent from all parties, explaining the implications and limitations of dual representation. Section 6. If a transaction fails due to buyer's fault, the commission stated in Section 3 remains payable. Section 7. Buyer agrees to defend broker and agent from claims arising from buyer's breach, with damages limited to the commission received by broker. Section 8. Parties agree not to discriminate based on protected classes under the Illinois Human Rights Act. Section 9. The agreement is comprehensive. Any modifications must be written and signed, and buyer acknowledges receiving additional important information for buyers. Document number 4 is a single property buyer representation agreement. This agreement is very similar to the extensive exclusive buyer representation agreement, but is specific to one property address. This agreement adds the following. The agreement extends if negotiations or a purchase contract are ongoing after the initial period. This agreement designates a specific agent for the buyer. The buyer agrees to pay a commission to the broker upon purchasing the property. This agreement details how the commission owed may be affected by compensation offers from the seller. Buyer must pay commission if certain related parties purchase the property. If the transaction fails due to the buyer's fault, the commission is still payable. Buyer agrees to indemnify the broker for any disputes or costs arising from the agreement. Parties agree not to discriminate based on protected class. This agreement outlines the responsibilities of the broker in presenting offers and assisting the buyer until a contract is signed. It explains that the designated agent may represent other parties. It notes that confidential information about the seller cannot be disclosed to the buyer. It clarifies the role of the broker as a real estate professional and advises the buyer to seek other professional services if needed. It states that the broker's sales associates are not the buyer's agents unless specified. It specifies that any changes to commission terms must be in writing and agreed upon. The agreement is comprehensive, prior agreements are merged, and any modifications must be in writing. Finally, it states that real estate agents are independent contractors and not employees of the company. If you or your real estate agent are dissatisfied with the partnership, most buyer agency agreements outline how to end the arrangement. You might have to meet certain conditions like giving prior notice or writing a letter of termination to break the agreement. Be sure to carefully review the termination clause in your contract in the event you want to end it and work with another real estate professional.
The real estate industry is undergoing historical changes, and it's important that the agent you decide to work with is highly experienced, understands all the changes thoroughly, and can confidently explain everything to you in a very comprehensive way. I am a very experienced full-time real estate agent and have been since 2005. I have made it my number one priority to understand all the new changes, and I would be happy to explain them to you and share with you how it is that I stand out amongst all the other agents. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you may have. Thank you.